a lot of stuff away from our kids.
Hey,
until
Brett,
they got
can you hear me?
Yeah, 100% agree with that.
Sorry.
I'm just making sure that Brett can hear me.
Anyway, I'm sorry, it's one of yours, but
No, and he had his helmet on. He was coming back from basketball practice. He didn't stop at the stop signs. I mean, he didn't. And
That's
she
really-
recorded him doing it.
stopping at stop signs is really
I know.
even the kids that are blocking the street, technically the law says that cars are supposed to yield to bikes.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to be able to share the road, but it's hard to share when it's too wide or three.
Right. I know it's not you, but just saying some people want this to be.
No, I don't post.
I know, but you don't want this to be a senior community, and some people do.
I understand that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do understand. Nothing has started, has it?
No.
I just wanted to see the screen while I read it.
So right here, one of
We got the big house.
Yeah, I'm just doing.
Hey, Jim.
People are Molly out there either.
I was just about to call you.
1, 2, 3,
Same.
4.
Seriously?
We got 4.
We can
I'm here.
go out and drink afterwards. I won't need to drink unlike other times, but
Yeah, we got
we can-
No sugar now.
You look great.
yeah, no, there's sugar. A little bit. Not much sugar.
You
though.
look terrific.
Oh, I'm not supposed to sit here. I'm sorry.
We switched it up.
Okay.
Forgot where my place was.
Everything good?
Might get PTSD to sit over here.
Right? Easily.
It was a lot cooler in here than it was last time.
Yeah, I did realize that like there was a fan that just wasn't working.
Yeah.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. How are you?
Good afternoon. You driving that fun yellow car?
Oh, yeah. That's one of mine.
Mr. Hall,
go.
long time no communicate.
Yeah.
About what? About 3 hours? Been texting Tom a lot.
No, it's the same way. We was missing.
Yeah.
No, so.
Dropped off.
Apple has been shipping
Where do we have for?
Yeah, we got 4.
I'm just waiting from.
Molly,
latest devices that cost
Molly's the only one that we're missing.
new protocol.
I think she was planning to attend.
Same.
Yeah.
She is.
Speakers had it since 2020, but the iPhone 15 had to read.
Wherever you want. We can move over. So, because it will.
You're not talking about ourselves.
Cramped and a little
No,
rough.
no, it's just for like a home automation protocol. That, like, it's in there,
Yeah.
Yeah, there's 7. We're missing, the only one we're missing is Greg.
and so you're saying.
Was on, but
What
no,
room aside do you get that?
we got 2 more minutes.
Even internally, we don't talk about chips. I have to.
So I was looking at this wonderful app.
So it's Tom, since he's a radio guy.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's different places.
Next week, we should
I
have to
was
begin.
making sure the recording was happening.
That can be addressed. Yeah. If you want to, and you know, like.
Celebration.
And then you have parts of the streets, sidewalks and trails. And you have doggy park here.
So
Behind the scenes, right?
Nice to get that.
Molly, nice to meet you.
super. We bought brand going to JTS in 2000. That was a car you had to understand.
First time you
You had to
see
get
inside
at least
Do you?
that she up to 70.
No, it's not like I've inadvertently become like a JDM guy because I've got a Grand X as well, and I just can't get away
So
from
I
it.
had a square. House, that's square.
It's just-
It'd be under FiOS.
So
We'll talk
I guess I just
I'm in the
It's
test.
not yours, you're not gonna see it.
My celebration built the whole.
I'm not saying that your car had this issue, but I just, it's the,
Yeah, that one.
this, yeah.
I'm inside and stepping on it.
I don't do it. I wanna
No,
open
the
it.
consumer
Yeah.
rate system, 5 years of ownership is the lowest cost of ownership.
Looks like you may open it twice. but-
Because literally it's tires. washers, fluid.
Yeah, so, yeah. you can switch over to it.
Well, I'm 100% on board for like, with like hybrid.
Get started.
cars.
Yeah.
It's the, but it's just like.
You guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, I get started. So, what? Call to order. We start with owner comments. Any owner comments over here?
Email.
No? All right.
Just before you get too far, Jose was properly noticed, meeting correct.
Entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
He moved it.
Do we have a
Yes.
second?
Second.
All in
He was
favor?
quiet then.
All in favor? All right, let's do this. First item is the My Celebration app. So what we were looking for, what we talked about in our last meeting was putting together that list of things that we need for it to be considered complete on our end. There were a list of items we were still looking for, and it looks like Tom put together the items that he had. So I don't know if we want to review these and then if there's any others, but basically what we need to do is we need to get what's our list of stuff over to them, and then we can track against that list so that we can get to the point where we can sign off and say that from our perspective, the implementation is complete.
This is actually their list.
Okay.
So this came from Angel. And there's a corresponding document with the minutes.
Mhm.
And then it was agreed at the last meeting that we'll meet every other week. And every other meeting, GoGov will be present. So in other words, once a month, we'll have GoGov representative there to discuss whatever issues we want to talk about with them.
Are the green things done? Oh yeah, it looks like
Yeah.
those are done.
Yeah.
Are there other things that we were waiting on besides what's already captured? Did they have everything captured that we were expecting?
Yes.
Okay.
And they were easy to add. It was easy to add items. If we needed to add an item, they put it right on. There's no problem.
And did this also have the stuff that Lauren needed around access? Was that captured? in
We
here?
asked for that again.
Is it captured in this?
Well, is this the bottom of the page?
This is the top.
We need to.
Yeah, Jose, were you able to get your access?
So no, I
For the
checked,
reports?
I checked yesterday. And I spoke to Lauren. I showed her that when I go to the report section, it just stays on an endless loop. Tried it on another computer using a different browser to see if the PC was the issue. Same issue across the board. And then I had to reset a password for an associate and I couldn't get access to reset the password for the users.
So you're having a little bit of an issue, but.
Yeah.
as long as access is fine.
Yeah.
So is
So
this
it
still
looks
back
like
and
if
forth,
we-
we can jump in or not? Because it
Well, I mean, we already,
seem really formal.
but we already reached out to the folks at CCDD and they're addressing.
Well, the original agreement, so you know, at least behind the scenes, was that you would be the system administrator for the whole system. I don't think that has moved forward and probably will be denied by the people who made that commitment. But who is the system administrator at CCDD who doesn't really have a tech guy?
From what I understand, it's Elizabeth. Am I correct?
Who?
I think, well, they call it a super admin
Yeah,
and it's Angel as far as.
Angel, that's correct.
Oh,
Angel.
well, yeah.
It's not-
Unless
No.
it's documented somewhere and we can say that that needs to
Yeah,
happen, we
I
don't.
don't think I got it documented, and the person that told me that will deny it.
We've asked for that at the past two meetings.
I understand.
It makes the
But
most,
we need to, let's add it to the
just
list.
from a logical standpoint,
See if it's in the minutes of the meeting.
from a logical standpoint, it makes more sense for an IT person
Minutes.
to be the admin as opposed
It's in
to,
another document, it's
Yeah.
in another.
But Jim, that admin has information, billing, financial institutions, and I was told they'll never get, that admin you never get. The sub-admin is what's on it now, but that super admin has billing and financial information, so that's not gonna be given to anybody else.
billing and financial information.
Okay, so at the, we can
From what?
we can go back and forth on what happened in the past. Let's get a list together of the things that we need so we can get it done. So back to that original document, there was the reports that we would like to add, and it does say reports I have access to. What does that mean? So go back to that first document, your first tab. So if you scroll further down, keep going. So there's this reports that I have access to. So this does not meet the, who has access to these? Who's the I in this case? Is this you, Tom? Or
No,
No, it's Jose.
that's you, those are the ones you have access to?
They should have.
I should have access
Lauren
to-
currently does.
So that's what Lauren, okay, so
So we need to get,
reports,
Jose needs to get.
Lauren has
to
access
Lauren.
to.
And then just the level set, the super admin for their application is gonna be CCD only. That's not gonna change. So there's no point in trying to push that further. It's not gonna happen, but Lauren should be, and I'll put quote unquote, super admin of all CROA issues. So she should have everything across the gamut related to CROA tickets.
So does Lauren have access to, Jose, does Lauren have access to the things that she needs now? Can she see across the whole?
she can see across Crow, she can't see anything beyond that. So any DCCDD.
So that was a point from the last meeting as well. So did you talk about that?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, and you said
We
that's
very clear- we made it very clear that Crow needs to be able to see, you, Andrew, you were on the call, weren't you?
Yeah.
That Crow needs to see all 100% of all of the problems that are submitted, regardless of who they really belong to. In case there's a mislabeled issue that they need to pull over, and a person shows up at the desk complaining and doesn't even know what's on the Crow list. We made that point perfectly clear at the meeting. We can do it again. Hopefully it's in the minutes.
I don't see
Well,
it here.
the compromise was that on a weekly basis, I believe every Monday, they would provide all open tickets, whether it's CCDD or CROA, to Jose and Lauren, which Jose, have they sent this week? No, all right, so we have to follow up there. But that's where, if there is something outstanding, then they'll be able to have access to see what open items are there to then determine whether it should be CROA or not, or facilitate that, yes, the ticket's open and it's with CCDD.
I think Jim has.
That is not provided.
So is it
Yeah, there.
their process now and our process now from CROA to assign have as many things automatically assigned as possible? Is that
They're
still
not,
happening?
so the original intent was to automate a lot of the functionality.
Yes,
that
I
we
do
had,
remember that.
that we didn't have with Asana. That automation is not fully there. It's still,
Meaning it's not working correctly?
yeah, it's not.
Not
No,
working
no,
as
wait a second.
No, it's working correctly,
Yeah.
but some of the automation features that we wanted to route to like, what was it you called it? Like, for example, you put in a ticket for animal control, it should automatically route.
Oh, okay.
None of those routings are taking place.
Yeah, so, but both sides, CROA and CCDD assign a portion and then some are unknown, right? Unassigned.
Mhm.
Why don't we just develop an unassigned report that we have access to that goes across both? Is that possible to do?
That's what the open items are.
So
That
speaking
report
of
that
the
they're gonna
open-
be providing.
No,
every week
you
is all
don't
of
provide the report. It's a system, right? You create a report in the system that anyone can access at any time.
So that was part of the discussion.
Yeah,
There are fixed reporting. There's a fixed reporting structure with specified reports. I don't know if that's in there because I can't access
Yeah.
it.
yeah.
But the point is that if you can customize a report to show only unassigned, then sure. And then you
If
could
they
schedule
can.
it to run every day.
If
If
they
it can.
can't, you have my number. Because that's pretty straightforward to do in a system like this.
Mhm.
Do you see what I mean?
Well, isn't everything being assigned by the location? So that's where they're kind of.
No, it's not.
No, it absolutely is not. So I'll give you a classic example if I can of how, first of all,
The menu as it currently exists is unbelievably confusing to most people. You have a total category called irrigation. Right after you have one called landscaping that has irrigation in it. You have sidewalks listed here and here and here. So if the person picks the right place, it still doesn't get run. I had a sprinkler head broken, a service area sprinkler head. Normally I would just pick up the phone and call and say, and it would be fixed in a matter of hours. But I tried to use this app. 2 days later, I got something from CDD that said they'll put it on their list. Why? It's service area property. So geographically, they don't know that. And I was standing right there when I did it. And plus I put in the request, the specific information, including that was a service area. Still didn't get to the right person. And so ultimately on day 3, I had to call here and they took care of it within a matter of hours.
All right.
App was worthless.
I think, Tom, that's what we'll need to bring up in the next meeting as far as more reporting around from the submission to when it gets assigned, whether it's Crow or CCDD, and understand if that truly is functioning correctly or not. Because my understanding was it didn't matter what type of repair or work you chose. It should be tied to the geolocation of whether that's within the CCD or Crow bubble, and then it get assigned automatically.
That's what,
So if it's not being done, then we can talk.
So
about
what came up, I mean, Paul's situation, he's brought this up before. There's edge cases where you could be standing on CCD property and take a picture of a Crow item. And it's good.
I was standing on their sidewalk
Those
when I took the
cases,
picture.
those cases are gonna have to be sorted out manually. In general, if you're in the right spot, like, on a boardwalk or something like that, and you report a problem, it goes to the right place. It goes to CCTV.
Right, which again, if it's
So-
working 95% of the time, good. If
Yeah.
this is the 5% exception.
So there are
always
gonna
have
be,
that anomaly that.
there are gonna be
Take a little
cases like that. It's not perfect, you're standing in the street, and you're taking a picture of a street pole or something, and when you're on the street, you're on county property and you're taking a picture of something that belongs to CCTV. The software doesn't know. Right, so there's always gonna be those cases which we have to handle on an individual basis, but those are not the bulk of the cases.
Right. I don't want, the perception almost sounds like it wasn't working, but to my knowledge, it's working for a large majority of it.
Yes, it
Well,
is
if you let
working.
us see everyone else's requests, we'd know, but I don't think that's true. I make a lot of requests through this. And I haven't had one that came out right other than streetlights. Streetlights has always been easy. If you have a bulb out, you can report it. And that's not geolocation either. You say it's in front of 518 and they take care of it within a day.
Right.
So getting back to what's available, what the open tickets are, that's where we started here. The report didn't get sent. So regardless of whether we automate that report or not, today's issue is that we don't have it. Do you want me to reach out to CCDD, or is that something you should be doing as the liaison?
Since I was in.
Okay. Why,
They-
it doesn't
it should-
matter,
and
if
it
it
should
doesn't
be-
matter if you're in the meeting or not. What do you
No, I
want
know.
that role to be? Is it any communication to CCDD goes through you? Or do you want me to reach out to them directly or Jose to reach out directly when we don't get a report on Monday?
I think it probably should be Jose if it's not getting there, because he's the recipient of it.
Okay,
So they're gonna put a list of who gets it, Lauren, Jose, and who else.
and then you can
it's
copy.
an auto send.
You know,
to
CC
whoever
right.
needs to be.
Mhm, and then copy us.
So I don't expect to see that report. I expect it to go straight to Grand Manners and they can handle it.
Okay, so you
But
want
I
to
will-
follow
I will
up and
follow
say,
CCTV to
yeah.
Make sure it gets up and running, and I'll work with those.
then once we can actually see those things and have them, that's still not an ideal situation because someone at the front desk, when someone calls in is saying, hey, I have this issue, then I have to look through this report. Is it there? That's still not an ideal situation, but let's at least get visibility to them first. And we can keep moving from there.
Right.
So Tom, just quick question. Some are geolocation, but the geolocation were supposed to be the edge cases. We were supposed to say, if it's this, go to here. What's the mix of that in the final?
Oh, no, we don't review the reports. So we don't know. I have no insight.
Are we continuing the meetings that we had?
Yeah, that's what I said.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so,
Yeah,
I
I'll
wanna
work
ask
with
Jose-
Jose and Lauren, because now we have March data, we have April data, and then
Good.
now we just finished May data. So
awesome.
now we have something to look at to see, because I think in April, I want to say 120 out of 161 were closed within a month. So
And it
there
did-
is some data. out there.
It says in the minutes that open tickets will be provided weekly on Mondays to the distribution list. CCDD is doing this. So
When
I don't know what the
Connection.
distribution list is.
When I talked to Greg and Tom in February, I said, we need to see tickets that are not being closed. There has to be accountability and I want them reviewed. And they both promised me that we would do that. So that was conversations I had in February. In March, everything changed. So I'm just saying that's what I left it off with both of them.
Well, it looks like that in some of the reports that Lawrence supposedly has access to now, that Jose should be getting, that stuff's answered. So we just need to make sure that that's,
Can you put on like a review addressing the issue in terms of like the confusion? Because I know the way that we did it is we got them a list. We got CCD a list.
Yeah.
CCD had a list. They put them together and do it. I don't know if anyone's, and the whole idea with doing this is we work off of one app. So if we could all get together and review it from a user perspective and see if it seems confusing. It seems like it was built so it worked on the back end, which is really important, but I think we also need a review to say, what's the user experience of this? Is it confusing? And given the intelligence I know of this man, I would say it is.
You all seem very important. It seems very important to you to have the process be good.
Well, it is, it should, and it needs
Excuse
to
me.
be. Yeah, sorry.
It's very important for me to have a user experience, since I'm paying for this, that works. And so I made a request on April 30th about a water leak, purely CDD activity. So don't worry about it. It's not yours. Which lasted, by the way, for over 3 weeks. They let the water leak into the drain and said, that's okay. Enterprise is paying the bill. They didn't want to shut it off. Turns out it was potable water. So I don't know how they allowed it to leak. But anyway, it's still on here as open. And it was now fixed about 2 weeks ago.
my husband, we all have anecdotes. My husband submitted it.
It's not an anecdote. It's
I understand.
Excuse
It
me.
is,
It's a
but
user
don't interrupt
experience.
me.
And whether you
So, I
care about
understand.
what
I
I
work
say or
in
not,
user
I have a right to
experience.
say
I do
something
care.
here.
I do care. I work in user experience and my husband submitted something as well
Excuse me.
and had a
Excuse
ticket.
me. I
And
didn't
then,
interrupt you, so I will now. I am trying to tell you that my experience matters as much as your process. If you don't agree with me, that's your decision. But I'm here to say that the user thinks this is terrible and doesn't work.
I agree.
Get all the reports you think you need, because that's very important to you. But the reality is, as a user, it's worthless.
Paul, I'm gonna ask going forward, we can be a little bit calmer and
I'll be very
not
calm.
because I want to keep it open to owner comments to participate, but if that's the interaction we're gonna have with this committee, I'm gonna have to shut it down.
Well, then don't let the chair interrupt in the middle of a
Well,
comment.
the committee is having a conversation. They reach out to the
Okay,
homeowners present
may
to
I take the
discuss.
podium when I want to speak?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
You
that's
guys are
fine.
okay with that for that
And then we'll
process?
know that you're not interrupting and I get 3 minutes at each opportunity.
Not 3 minutes, but
That's
So
what
the-
the rules say.
the user experience is terrible. It's not great. I work in user experience. It is awful. But until we have the information to be able to answer the questions that the homeowners have, we have so many things and we're going to throw
Mhm.
30 requests at them. They're not going to be able to do all 30. So we need to start with the things that we can do, which is first we need to understand when people come to the desk, we need to be able to answer their questions because that's part of the user experience. And there's so many people who are coming to the desk and calling and wanting to know what's the status. If we don't have that information, we can't help them. So there's a big chunk of it right there. That's one piece of this list right now that's 16 items long, and that doesn't even include the other stuff. We can't tackle all 30 at once. So we have to do a piece at a time because we've been trying to tackle all the things at once, and we're in the same spot we are today as we were a year ago, other than the fact that the app is live. But we're still having these same conversations that we've been having for 6 months. And frankly, I'm just tired of having the same conversation every month. So what can we do? How can we break this off into pieces so we can ask them to do the work so we can start checking things off the list and hopefully move from the place that we're in right now, which isn't great, to a place that's better and ultimately eventually get to a place that's great.
And user experience is part of that.
So just hold on a second.
From your perspective.
I agree with everybody's saying, you need to just drill down a little bit more. I had these conversations again in March. We looked at tickets, because the last time you and I spoke, Paul, there was tickets that were not closed, right? So Up to that point, I agree with 100%. I went back and asked with Angel and Tom and Greg, and we looked at those tickets. Those tickets were distributed and they weren't even opened. Okay, so now if you have tickets sitting in somebody's desk who's not opening, and we're gonna go back and blame the UI, which there's plenty to blame, there's more to the story. And you'll never get fixed with all the finger pointing. You have to exactly know what's going on. So a bunch of tickets, Andrew, were sitting there, never opened. So the weekend goes by and nobody even looked at it. They were sent and nobody opened it.
Which for public knowledge, it's a 10-day SLA for a lot of items for CCD and CROA, I think, has that by default.
Yeah.
So unless it is a safety emergency that falls within that like 24-hour turnaround time, these aren't getting done in, say, 24, 48 hours. It's where the crews are for the different entities and when they can get out there to do it.
Is that posted anywhere in the app, or is the resident told that depending upon the severity of the problem?
No, it's not. And then the other thing too, that with conversation we want is right now you only get open, pending, and closed. That is descriptive of how it goes through the channel of assigned, pending, contracted to come out, or something else. So we've asked that of CCDD. CCDD is going to ask GoGov as far as can we put a larger subset of statuses out there. So then for the user experience, you can kind of see it walk through the process. And then at the end of it, there's a close date with a description on the back end. So you understand, yes, we were out there on this date and we completed it. And hopefully they put a picture too, so that there's the back end of,
Awesome.
it's not just closed, but you have what they did, a picture.
Well,
of it,
and
so
you
can
don't
see
want
it.
to say it's impending just because you submitted it, right? You want to know that someone is acting on it, and that's what the additional stages would bring, is someone would move it from one stage to the other, that you would know they're putting it on a schedule, they're putting, you know what I'm saying?
Right, that
Yeah.
it goes through a process, right? Because I know a few that I had were open for 2 weeks and then it went into like a pending status and then closed eventually. So
Yeah.
ideally, that's not exactly the communication from the app we want, but again, we're building upon it. There's been productive conversations with CCDD that Tom and I have been a part of. So
Okay, good.
slowly but surely we'll get there. And they had a big update this week with GoGo. And then hopefully GoGo will be at the meeting mid-month. And we'll get a lot of those things knocked off the list and improved.
At the end of the day, we're stakeholders. We don't own the implementation. We don't own that contract. So we have to work within the confines that we have. And what we can do is we can provide the documents if this is what we need. And then we have a receipt that they have received it because we sent it and we know it was communicated on that day. And then we can say, why hasn't this been done? Why hasn't this been done? You got it this day. And just having all of these verbal conversations and telephone conversations, we don't have anything that so-and-so told me this was going to happen.
Mhm.
So we really we're at a point now where it's been going too long and just that cordial conversation isn't working. And
Right.
that's where we need to have a list of this is what needs to be done so we can start ticking it off.
I agree. I do think we're more than shareholders, because I'm not sure they would have went forward if CROA didn't agree to participate in this. They said they were going to, but I'm not sure they would have. The reason that CROA agreed was because we were told we were going to be treated as equal partners in terms of things like we've been talking about the last 10 minutes.
Well, I don't want to go too far in the past and wrap this up on Celebration, but I thought Cell Service was end of life
It
and
is.
we had to move this.
No, No,
Can I speak on
that's
that?
not completely true.
So the current platform we were using, the seller service, was at end of life, but they had a new version that they were offering. We just never reviewed it, jumped on it because we were working with CCTV.
Yeah, again, the reason that CROA made that decision and the technology committee recommended it was so that we could work together on the same platform on behalf of the residents.
Also not to have two apps, which was discussed many times by us, have two separate apps. And they talk about terrible user experience, figure out which app to use to put a ticket.
Yeah, so so that was why. And again, you're not going to find anything in writing on that, but you can remind them. And even you can threaten that I'll come to a meeting if they don't,
Well, again, I think Tom and I are having productive conversations. The two meetings a month are set up and working. So let us work through the process. And if there's new things that come up, definitely bubble up to us and we'll work with them.
So I
So
just want to comment on something you said there, Chris, about John had asked at the last technology meeting that they brought up the same thing about this is all verbal and it's all conversations and all this. Let's get it written down. All right. We have meeting minutes posted and we have a problem list, a documented problem list and a status of every one of those problems. We're not planning on doing anything more than that. Right? That is the documentation. If you want to see it, it's on the team, it's in our team's folder.
No, I appreciate that. That's what the ask was to get that information, so we have something to track against. If we didn't have anything. to
Yeah.
track against.
When we first started, you gave me an assignment. I've already forgotten. I've written down the other two. What followed up on?
oh no, I'm gonna follow up with GoGov on the weekly report.
Okay, but you asked me to do something. I'm glad you don't remember it either.
No, we'll get recording that.
You asked me to do something. Yeah, we can go back and listen to the recording.
We covered a lot, but you know, the one thing that I would like to forget, I don't remember, I'm terrible with Paul's comment about like, you know, the UI, the UX being terrible. You know, I think that we should be asking ourselves as a group is saying like, okay, we understand there's a lot of problems with the app and that we have to deal with the various different stakeholders, but what are some of the things that we could take action on some of the comments that he just made? So he made a comment about like, well, there's 3 different places we can put in irrigation. It's like, okay, well, how about we take a look at the list and we start kind of like decrypting it, so to speak, to say like, okay, this is us, this is them, us, them, and then we can actually take that to the app developers and say, hey, you know, we went and did our due diligence. This is the issues that we're seeing. This is what needs to be sorted through so that we're not receiving confusing things. Because I think that, you know, we're focusing, I agree with you that we need the reports, but we're also not, you know, asking the question about like, hey, what can we do right now that it ultimately helps the homeowners and the residents to be able to submit tickets a little bit easier. And, you know, the thing that just keeps on popping up in my head is like, we got a long, convoluted, and confusing list. It's like, well, let's map that out.
Exactly.
I mean, like, why not take that on as an action item so that we can actually move a problem forward versus waiting for something to be given to us?
For sure.
That would be my recommendation for something to do for the immediate.
And step 1 was getting the list, so we got the list. That's new today.
Well,
And then even the question about irrigation, what that ends up being for us is it goes on here as a request to go to CCDD to make the change.
I understand that. But, I mean, the one thing
But we can put that together.
one thing that should be easy for them to provide to us is like, okay, how is the application mapped? You know, because if it's an automated triage process and it goes to, it's supposed to go to like, you know, us or them, you know, they should be able to show you like, hey, when you select this is how it gets routed to where it ultimately ends. And we should be able to say like, okay, us, them, us, and it's like, this is where we have, you know, where it's duplicative, like maybe we have to change the language or we have to, you know, say like, hey, we need a manual triage to happen here because we can't decipher between the two if it's us or Cora. You know, it's like, we just need to, I mean, that to me is problem solving.
Well, doing
Well, I think what happened was almost a year ago, we were on and the developers are really good. They had it all mapped out and then people started asking for more. So I think stuff was stuck in there for requests that convoluted. Because this is 300-400 communities across the country are using this. And they said, whatever you want, we'll put in there. And I think just the different organizations asked for stuff, which made it, right? And I think that.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the problem with, you know, when you're buying a SaaS solution, right? You have to make concessions on whether you're going to, you know, go with, you know, what the product as is, or if you want something custom, you have to pay that premium for it. So, you know, if we have irrigation and they have sprinkler, let's get rid of the one that we said that we wanted. And so like, hey, let's help with some type of communication of saying irrigation equals sprinkler, and then it's being done with it. I much rather fight the battle of education than continuing to have to say like, I don't know how this is mapped.
Yeah, I mean, it could be as simple as just changing the wording.
Yeah.
Some of them.
It also might be like some users might call it irrigation and some might call it sprinklers. So maybe it was added so people didn't get confused, but they are supposed to end up in the same place. It might be purposely like seem confusing if you keep looking at it, but it's meant to hit different.
Well, I'm sure there's a reason because
Yeah.
Pro had their input, CCD had their input, they were combined and they were put together. But I don't think it's been reviewed from a user perspective as of yet. And then, like I said, we need to make sure that the user knows the reason why they're separated.
So I think,
Or
You-
they might end up in the same place.
Yeah, I mean,
would you be willing to join the?
Yeah, I
You
mean,
take
it's-
another person on for, or I don't know how many people we have in those GoGov meetings. But the only thing I ask is that because there's just been so much verbal stuff and nothing's getting done because I want a list to track against. I want to be able to say, we asked you for this and you have not gotten it. That's the only thing I ask is that because we've been doing this, we've had these same conversations for months on end.
Yeah, I mean, but then again, it comes down to, not to say like you go with the nuclear option, right? So like, screw it, we're just gonna go back to using our own app or, proposing something crazy like that. But, we're gonna have to make the decision of like, okay, are we going to start making some concessions just for, the convenience of everyone so that we can move forward and close it? Or is there hard lines in the sand that's saying like, hey, if you cross this, then we're going to have to end the relationship, rip off the Band-Aid and just be done with it. I'm not saying that we go like, that
Yeah,
direction,
and
but
that
it's-
would have to be a coordinated effort
Yeah,
across
but,
multiple organizations.
again, like if you're just constantly having continuous conversation after conversation and we keep on having people coming here, it's like, hey, this is crap. It's like, well, the juice isn't worth the squeeze at that point, and it's just time maybe to do something, go a different direction. So
It's new. It just got implemented.
yeah,
I mean, yeah.
I'm sure we're on a contract.
Yeah.
I feel like GoGov just needs a little help. So we have our list of 16 items. We already have 4. We'll take them up. There's 12. Let's do like 1, 2, and 3. And then, in the meetings, start with 1, start with 2, start with 3. I'm sure we also have in the SLA, like how long they have to respond to bugs and like P1, P2, P3. So let's just make it easy for them. And
Yeah.
If they want us to track it in a Jira or a Monday, we can. Either way, stuff has to be checked.
I do think it's better with the push notifications. Because even though I'm sitting at my desk working the whole day, the pool's closed, okay? Another one, 2 hours later, the pool's open. So the people, the people who are using the pool on a daily basis, the summer, that's really good. And that's much better than having to check Facebook or whatever. So that was one of the big things that I saw in value over GoGov were the notifications, and they seem to be working well.
Yeah, that's kind of you can't make everyone happy, and the fact that you like the notifications where other people don't, because
Oh, you got complaints?
no, because they don't, say you live in North Village, but you're getting a lakeside
Oh,
pool.
they want to.
I don't want to see that. So, it's a work in progress. Again, it's only a couple months old that we're using it. So we'll take the urgent ones that are
There
breaking,
aren't,
and
I'm pretty sure I get all the notifications. There aren't that many. There's like less than
Okay.
a half a
We have
dozen
more
a day.
things to talk about.
Yeah, I
tonight,
know.
because it took a
The
long.
last thing, because says, Paul, and I know you do your homework, but like I just typed in irrigation and it only came up one spot. So if we can screenshot what you're finding, so we can then
Just go right
submit it.
above it. The whole next area in front of it is called landscaping, and irrigation is under landscaping. That's where they go to landscaping for irrigation. They don't go to look for a second topic further down the list that says irrigation. Same thing with.
So it's the titles and the subtitles which confusing.
It's
But we all go to
it's a
the
whole, its own section. It's called irrigation. Belongs in.
But I think if we had screenshots to show them what we mean by just saying a UI sucks is not, you can't just do that. You have to show specifically the confusion.
Whether you like the old app or not, at least it was organized well. You may have wanted to add a section here that was organized well. This is entirely different and really looks like a software engineer who knows nothing about what they're really trying to do, just put topics in place and hooked it up however they want to, but it doesn't visually work for the consumer. And can I just find out, I mean, Tom, you said all of this stuff is available online, whatever that letter was. It's not available.
No, it's.
All we ever see is your agendas. That's why I show up at meetings, because there's never anything but an agenda.
Now, what I said was available in Teams, Teams.
For the committee.
But to the community, we don't know what so you may have on your list what I'm about to come
The
to the
minutes
meeting.
are out there.
We don't know. What's that?
The minutes are on the website.
No, not the letter.
Well, we just got this today. This is our first time of discussing this part.
Okay. At some point, was it available enough that it could have been posted like the board does? They posted what I call a rich agenda. The underlying documents are posted.
I posted it was yesterday or the day before.
It would help if, as a
Meeting was Friday.
homeowner, we could look and see you're working on this. Look what you've got. Then that's good. Good.
I think
Nice
that's
to
a
know.
conversation we need to have with CCD, whether they're comfortable having those minutes from our bi-monthly meetings published.
Okay. Well, they're a public agency. That's a.
I know, but I'm just saying
record for them.
that it's a partner, so we don't want to just throw something out
agree,
there without
but
making
you're-
sure they're on board, so.
All of us are entitled to see everything they.
I know, but I'm just saying, let's do
Such
the
a-
proper process and
matter
make sure
can
everyone's on the
be-
same page, so that
Yeah.
can be, so inquiring minds like yourself can find.
And as to the other things that you might be doing. I'm suggesting that to look at that agenda doesn't really tell us what you were talking
But
about.
I guess just going to your thing, I'm looking at the app and I show irrigation with irrigation, then sprinkler head, and then I have landscaping maintenance, turf maintenance. So I don't see the same issue these ways.
Well, take a look at sidewalk repair and see how many times it's on there. I'm not looking at it yet. I'll bring it up in a second. Is a series of repetitive topics under different major headings.
It
So,
doesn't matter,
but
like,
let's,
does
let's
it?
just
Yeah,
table
I
this
mean,
though.
we
I
can
mean,
check this.
Paul, I want to
Doesn't
see, I want
matter.
to understand what
Goes
you're
to the right
seeing.
people,
Because I
doesn't
would
matter.
never.
Yeah.
So for example,
Last one, right?
as an example, if I live in a service area and I want to make a specific complaint about irrigation to the service area, I shouldn't be bothering CBD. It's never going to be their responsibility. It should be a broken out subtopic that I can look at service area, irrigation, whatever. Streetlights, that's always going to be CBD, so that can be in one area. Sidewalks, on the other hand, and it's been a problem because you have dangerous sidewalks surrounding Long Meadow Park, do not get addressed because neither of you know whose job it is to level an inch, 2 inches all over around the park, tripping
But
hazards.
that's where, are we talking about 1% of the problem or 99%, which that's in the 1%, that's going to need some special handling and review.
People
the
like to
99%
say
of the
they
other stuff
can't
is
get a
working.
response on anything. I can't see what their requests are. So I
Right,
can't
but the,
speak to
the app isn't going to be responsible for whether CROA or CCD fix something. That's separate from the actual physical app and separate from the technology community. So that we need to make sure we understand, is it an app issue or is it a servicing issue?
It's an app issue if a sidewalk that belongs to CROA goes to someone's desk at CDD because they're usually responsible for sidewalks. And they then look at it and say, but that's not our sidewalk, and then don't forward the person over here.
I will take a specific example to CCDD and I'll ask them how many that actually occurred and what that timeline and process is.
Okay.
That's a noted.
I'll share with you.
But yeah,
history
outside of this
quick way.
meeting, I'll have a conversation with you. Let me know what issues you're seeing, because again, from us up here, we don't know all the user issues that are out there unless it's communicated to us. So it's trying to move on. I'll have an aside with you, Paul, to understand what problems you're having on it, so we can take it to CCD and work on improvements and go from there.
Okay.
All right.
And can we make sure we capture that written,
Yes.
please? So that is my main ask, because we wanted these things to get done.
Well, and then there's accountability around a written list as well, so.
Yes.
Right.
All right, moving on. I lost which window has the agenda. You have the agenda. up
Card
there.
system.
Key card. Where are we at with that?
So, while I was out, Andy was working on the CSV file to correct the issues with the original upload. So what we did was we segmented them by location, Artisan, North Village, East Village. And we're vetting them out against Syrinet in order to make sure that it's a clear description of who lives where and have the right count. I sent one to you and Tom, which is for Artisan. That's under review with the front desk now. So as we hit each location, we're vetting them out to make sure they're accurate. As far as the database status, there is nothing wrong with the database. It's just getting those uploads correctly in. In terms of hardware, they installed the cans, the controller cans in Village, East Village, Spring Parks, Spring Lake, and they're active. So what should happen is that when we do once we do the upload of the file for each location with the proper access groups, we turn off the old system, we bring up the new one, it should be seamless. Because it's a one-to-one match of whatever's there on Keyscape. For Artisan, Scott has to reach out to me tomorrow. He had some other issues and he was at least pushing the guys to at least address the CAN setup and installations while I was out. So I'll catch up with him and then I'll give you some dates for Artisan.
I think the dates on Artisan, that's, so what, how does this impact the rest of the project? Because like we're behind schedule on Artisan.
Well, this project was commissioned in this November of last year.
Mhm.
At that point, it was gonna be 6 months to completion, right? So we're already past 6 months to get this done. Artisan Park, he gave me a list today. I forwarded the bill, 2,782 entries. Just the common sense part of that, there's only 600 homes in Artisan Park. That would mean there would be an average of 5 people per family.
Right.
It does not make sense. So that list needs to be purged. Who's responsible for doing that purging?
So
How do we
that's
get
being
rid
done
of
by
it?
the front desk.
Okay,
The hardware is more like, there was the database situation, which we need to clean that up. And that's, you're taking, or town hall's taking that on. The install window, that's the part we were struggling with. We couldn't get them to give us a schedule.
because it was contingent on getting the database correct.
Okay.
That's 100%. I can show you the email.
Okay.
They're not gonna do anything until the database is correct. So we're waiting.
For hardware?
Scott,
Hardware, so the database or the spreadsheet would never be the reason for them to stop.
well,
There were other issues with the building. There was some code issues, some wiring that needs to be done. There was a change order that needed to be addressed, which it was, but that shouldn't be the reason for them to hold that up. I would never see why the database would be an issue if we have it here and you're gonna have a direct connection to us.
This is where I'm getting two different,
All right,
I'm getting two
I
different
mean,
things. So
We'll
I
speak to
don't.
Scott. When I get on the call with Scott, I'll join you in the call. And we'll.
Yeah, I mean, I copied you on it. I know I maybe copied you too, but nothing's gonna happen in Artisan Park. There's nothing on Artisan Park end that's holding this up. We've already moved,
No.
we've already moved all of the hardware that needed to be moved. Everything has been ready to go over a month ago. We did it in April. Scott came back. I will show you the email. I'll send it out to you guys again. And where he said that until we get this database correct, and that's not their issue, nothing's gonna happen. Then Andrew came back, your guy, the other Andrew,
Andy,
I'm sorry, Andy, and said that we had to wait for you to come back because there were other issues.
no,
that you were
so
going to address.
Lauren put it on hold. She put it on hold because she wanted me to make sure that I was on top of it and it was because I started the whole project. I was more familiar with it. It wasn't fair to Andy for me to just say, here, deal with it, right? So yeah, it was really Lauren's decision to put it on hold, not Andy's, and she had notified Scott. So, but this is, again, I wasn't here.
So where we're at, you're back,
Yeah, so we're here.
you're back. The
We're gonna move it along.
database is being worked on. What is our next step? What's
So-
our, like, where?
So the next step is to meet with Scott, get hard dates for completion of the installation,
Okay,
right? Because that shouldn't, the database shouldn't be the issue. That's just pretty much,
They're parallel tracks.
yeah, they're parallel tracks, so it shouldn't be a.
But this is not a side-by-side installation like it was in the other
yeah,
location.
oh, yeah,
Right, this is a pull down and put up. And so it'd be hard cut.
It's a hard cut over.
It is absolutely hard cut.
So you shouldn't do the hardware until the database is solid, yeah?
So it's what I'm saying, we're gonna meet with Scott first. And once we meet with Scott, we're gonna get hard dates. By then, the database should, the import of the information should be uploaded to the database.
I guess, Jose, I would say the database shouldn't be done. It will be done by
Exactly.
you. Okay,
That's correct.
so, because that's an issue if he's saying there's 2,000 records and there's only 600 homes. There's a lot of purging you guys need to do. and you need to get that fixed. And that's what I brought up in the board of directors meeting last month is we know every homeowner has a card and their records should be perfect, flawless, no issues. The renters and the others, that's where you may have an issue. But if you need to cut a card off after that lease is up, cut it off. There's no reason to keep it open. And then if they need their card back, then they'll come back in and submit a new lease. But we need to start purging through that. And we need to make sure it's all.
That's being done right now by Alexa and Heather. So
Then is there any ETA on completion?
we're trying to get that done by Monday.
When did you guys start?
Which Monday?
This Monday.
Yeah,
That's next Monday.
This Monday coming up, sorry.
Coming up, yeah.
I think that, I mean, how many records are out there? I think that's aggressive,
2,784.
but across all of.
No, so
I
we're
think that's just words, I'm
specifically,
saying across. the
no, so
entire-
we're doing it in sections. We're not doing the whole thing in one shot.
So Monday is artisan.
Yeah, we're just focusing on artisan
Okay,
right
well
now.
then,
Then once
I'd
that's
like you to
done,
put a schedule of when you're gonna have everything else done, so then we can say, by this date this year, you've gone through the entire database and it's perfect as of that date.
no problem.
Is it possible, not to say they're second-class citizens, but is it possible to prioritize the homeowner part of the list? And say the homeowners will be available X, and then anyone who's a renter?
You can't take away their access to amenities.
I would say do it all.
Oh, yeah,
at one time.
because you're cutting it completely over, so they have no
Yeah.
access, yeah. Okay.
I mean, if you're just purging though, I mean, you just run the risk of someone that shouldn't have access accessing it. I mean, and then
Yeah, but
tomorrow,
that's-
the next day, it's gone. So.
I think that's a bigger issue of purging someone who should have access than having access to someone that shouldn't at the moment. That's a worse
Right.
user experience that even if the person moved out of town or moved away and they still have access, they're not using it. So
So,
I
so
think the
what's,
focus should be on Jose and team to get it done and get it right for everyone, both homeowners and renters.
So I'm just like, because we constantly, you know, I've only been here for the second meeting now, but we always hear about like, yeah, it should have been done in 6 months. And where are the schedules at? Where are the timelines, the resources that are being committed
Those
to it?
schedules were supposed to be provided to us by ProTech. But then we ran into a snag and we had to switch things up. I can ask Scott for it and I'm pretty sure he'll provide it, but we're gonna have to make adjustments.
Yeah, but I mean, like, okay, that's, okay. It just seems strange to me that we're talking about, you know, doing an implementation of something and we can't answer basic questions of when things are expected to be done.
Mhm.
And it seems that we're talking about it from a theoretical perspective, like, well, it should, or it
Mhm.
could be done. And it's like, well, just put a schedule together. It doesn't have to be something overly complicated. I mean, and because my whole thing is that people that are working on us are getting paid to do it. So it shouldn't be an issue for you guys to provide a schedule for anything.
How's Monday.com coming in terms of,
All the information is there. I could share it with the team.
I think it would be good. it
All the
seems to me that
updates
we
are there,
could At least
so-
share it with the committee on.
So I have everything on Monday.com. Everything I do, I have it on Monday.com. Again, it's,
Here it is right here. It's from Scott. This is his last correspondence on this topic. Read number 3. These are the criteria that we have to meet in order for the work to continue. The card will date in Arson Park. As we
Has been
received
received.
uploaded.
Yeah,
So
here's
this
the
is this is a showstopper right here.
it doesn't say that it needs to be clean and sand, it says it needs to be there. So to Steve's point, like, there's a difference between culling the data and down and removing things that are gone versus that holding up the installation. Cleanup efforts, while ideal to have done and have in place, that shouldn't preclude you, because I, as a resident, am still gonna have access just because just because so-and-so's card who I bought the house from, their card's still in the system, doesn't impact the experience for me getting access to the amenities I need.
Yeah,
It's not like someone's gonna drive down from,
Yeah.
like, they moved to Colorado. It's like, you know what, honey, today would be a
Let's
good
go
day. Let's
to
go
the
to the beach.
clubhouse.
You feel like, cool. It's like, yeah, I think I still have access.
So-
I mean, it's not.
I agree with that. It was redundant information, excess information that's a whole different category problem. I agree with that, but you have to remember that this was happening after the experience at the dog park, where we had all these people that were locked out, right? That's when this came out. So the concern was we would implement this database at Arson Park, and we would have a whole host of people whose cards didn't work because we had just come off of the dog park experience. So that's what this is addressing. It's not addressing the fact that we have 2,784. If all of those, if that's a superset of the people that are still there, I say put the database in now.
Well, that sounds like what, it sounds like that's what we're focusing on.
Yeah,
though.
that's- I
We're
agree with
focusing on the 2,000
But
people
that's
right
not
now.
what this was about. That Scott was coming from a perspective of what was happening at the dog park.
Yeah, I think the issue was the format of the database, not necessarily the makeup of it. That-
Did we fix the format?
Yeah, we did.
Well, so if that's, my follow-on question to that is that Scott should be able to say like, okay, once you get me this information, this is how long it's gonna take me to do it.
I agree with it.
So-
There's no schedule. The
So, well,
project management is not.
So there's not a problem with that. So if we say like, hey, we have an example of like, once the database is up, it's, I have this much heads up upon like, 3 weeks heads up of us being able to start work, it'll be done in 10 days. We have that communication from them.
They tell us, and I, again,
It's not hell, but I mean,
I
it's,
document everything on Monday.com, and then we have a small group that we all receive and exchange emails, so.
So
Just
say,
specifically for this project.
so say that's your responsibility to hold Scott accountable to some schedule. So that's where you need to voice,
So-
okay, we're ready to go. When can we have it done? He produces you a timeline
Yeah.
and then you work that timeline.
so when I have my project managers provide me status updates on their projects, one of the very first things I always look is like, let's pull up the schedule. See where you're at, where on all the tasks that you're at. What are the current risks and opportunities that we possibly have? Are there any things that we should be aware of? Blah, 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 blah. I mean, it's not hard to do some standard practice, project management practices on providing updates to not just us as the committee, but I feel that it'd be extremely helpful for the residents as they come in and they start like, hey, what's going on with this? This is exactly where we're at.
So I just have a quick question about this. So the 2,600, is that the current as is physical tickets, physical cards that people have? Or are we getting the
So
2,600?
that's an export from the actual database of Keyscan,
Yeah, so that's the as is.
as is.
As is right now, these 2,600 individuals have access.
Correct.
So let's just get them over and commit to getting the data accurate over time.
And or just do a purge of somebody that hasn't logged in over a year.
Yep.
That's.
You can do things like that too, absolutely.
Yeah, maybe that's the easiest thing. No.
That's a
Inactive
quick way.
card, so
Yeah.
if you don't use it within 12 months, you lose your access.
Yeah.
And that's a policy that gets put in place to hopefully self-correct some of this issue.
So the issue with the dog park, well, you have to renew your cards. So the cards may be sitting out there, but they might not be active because all of our cards expire. I mean, how many times you go to the door and people are like, doesn't work. And you're like, did you just have a birthday? And they're like, yeah, your card's expired. So that is built in there. That's built into the system to expire cards.
I don't think any of your cards are getting expired.
They are. At least
The
at
dog
Artisan, they
park is somewhat
absolutely are.
different Because it was based on your vaccination.
Hmm.
You could still be a resident, but your vaccination expired. So they added a field for vaccination expiration that it locked everybody out.
But I think it's something easy as, have you used your card in the last 12 months? Whether it's to the Lakeside Pool or Artisan Clubhouse or anything. As long as you use it within a year, then that card stays active. If it doesn't, then that's who we start purging immediately. And hopefully that's a large subset, so it's a quick cleanup for Grand Matters.
That's a good first pass, for sure.
I believe so.
It already expires annually. They already expire
They
annually.
said they. once
So
they-
then how do we have so many more
Biannually.
records?
Biannually every 2 years. So they already expired because they're still there. The records don't get deleted. The card gets
It gets
deactivated.
deactivated.
We don't delete
So
the
then,
cards.
I guess,
But
the
the
number that you're
list-
saying, how many are active versus inactive?
The list is active still though, right?
The list shows.
The list is of
It
active
shows
people who can have access right now with a card.
Yeah, something I agree with what you're saying, Chris. Something's not making sense here because we know the cards do expire.
They do
The
expire.
list had 2,784 people on it. Are those 2,784 people
Active.
active?
Active.
If they swiped a card, it would open. But we have one guy that's been gone for 9 years. His card's still good.
If his card is around, then it should still be good.
He's still on the property.
I mean, again,
But
this
it
is
shouldn't be
before
active.
me.
No, it should be disabled and it shouldn't be part of this
Yeah,
list.
It shouldn't be part of the
It
list.
shouldn't be that.
But it is. That's what it
Exactly.
said.
Yeah,
Again,
so it
that's-
shouldn't be
that's not
part of the
explained.
list, but it is. And it doesn't make.
Okay. So garbage in, garbage out, we all know that. So, so we also have a data problem.
What's the?
Well, there's two data problems.
What's the risk? So with the dog park, I know there was the whole thing with vaccination records, which was part of our objectives last year, was we needed to make sure people's cards were expiring and their dogs were vaccinated. But what is the risk for Artisan right now? Is there was the data, there was talk about in the Crow meetings about the data being corrupt, which
Yes, that's such a misuse word.
I thought so too.
Misunderstood word.
So it wasn't corrupt, it was.
It's not corrupt data, it's inaccurate information. Some of the information is old. It was never vetted before, even before me. None of this stuff was maintained. So we kind of now had to take it, flesh it out, remove what's not needed. Here's a fresh version, dump it. That's it. That's all we're doing. Is it a lot? Yes, but we're trying to segment it, so make sure that we tackle the locations that need to get done first so that we could just keep moving this along.
Well, to me, I would push the hardware forward. And if need be, if that happens quickly, then just load the database as is and you can purge it after the fact.
Yeah, that's the issue, that for the 2,700, as long as that's in the correct format to be used, that every single person on that list can get into the clubhouse. That's starting point A. Starting point B is clean up the list.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think on A, I don't think it's in the right format. He's still
Oh,
going
okay.
through the
Oh, all right,
garbage
okay.
that needs to
Yeah.
be cleaned up, that, everyone has a specific, I'm gonna say, key ID number that corresponds to the system.
Yeah.
That's not existing. So get that cleaned up, and ideally, it'd be easier to go through 1,200 than 2,700 if we can purge them. So that's where they kind of go hand in hand. Yeah,
Is
Paul?
that 5,000 active cards or active people who are eligible to have active cards if they came in and got them renewed every 2 years?
No.
Is that just a list of people
not
who would be
5,000.
eligible?
It's-
Or do their cards still work?
It's
It's almost impossible.
2,800, I think it was.
Whatever the number is,
Yeah.
is that number, some of whom don't live here anymore? Are those active cards or
Well,
just people eligible to get them? if
According
they
to the
showed up
report,
and
they're
had
according to the report, they're active.
active cards?
Active users, yeah.
Active cards, active people who should be given a card, have a card and are on that list. Obviously, that's probably not
I have more
accurate.
than 2 cars for my household.
Yeah, I was
I
about to say, it's
mean,
like.
You can have
got
multiple
about-
cards and
you
you
got
have
about-
apartments, so
There's about 10,000 people that live in
We have
Celebration.
more cards per people.
No.
Like, your kids,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's more than that.
It's more than
I
that,
think it's like
well,
15 to
Yeah.
20.
Like
Uh,
2.5 per house.
Well, I mean, yeah, but okay, but it's still, that even expands my point even more.
Right.
That like saying like you only have 2,800 active cards, but you've got 15,000 residents.
Aren't we talking about artists?
About artisan only.
Oh, okay.
Only
There's how many residents?
Residents.
600 homes.
There's
Okay.
homes.
So I would
So
like
say there's 2.5 per person, 2.5 per house.
That's what he said. It's like 5 per household. It can't
doesn't
be right.
count the garage apartments, which has additional people.
Right, okay, so 3.
Huh. I thought there were more apartments.
There's 616 residences in Artisan Park.
Yeah.
And that does not include the garage apartments.
500.
Garage apartments also are granted cards.
Okay.
So
Yeah, and how many cards do you have in your family? 2?
no, our child has his own card.
So 3 you have in yours. Yeah, exactly. So I don't know that it's that far off.
Because if people
I
moved,
think-
sold their house, their card never got deactivated either, right? So you have
So.
residents who sold it
What is
last
the
year.
issue? At the end of the day, it's the user listing. You gotta make sure that it's an apples to apples match. Because you can have, a family of 5, each with their own card, but we have it locked into a resident location.
Yeah,
What if there's another user with the same address who's just been sitting there for years? And nobody's bothered to vet it out and say, hey, remove this person from the database.
but shouldn't
that's-
have it expired in the old system?
Yeah. They do expire.
Auto expire?
They do expire, but if you don't put an expiration date, which is on some of the older ones, you'll find that it just lingers there in the ether.
Okay.
You know, so.
There are
that's
a
the
lot of
problem.
people in Artisan that have lived there for a while and have sold their houses and moved and.
Right,
yeah.
but Jose, is there a process when somebody sells their home that you go into the system and remove them from access?
This is before me, so if it was in practice, that's the question.
Right. So I don't
But
think
there
it's-
should be a process in place.
To that point, what are you doing today? If
So
someone
today
sells
we
a
put,
home,
so we put an expiration date. When someone sells a home, they're required to bring the information over to the front desk, and then they go into the system and make the changes.
even someone who leaves Celebration,
Oh, the new homeowner comes in.
When the new
Get their
homeowner comes
card.
in, yeah.
then you
old owner
deactivate
gets
the old
removed.
record. to delete the record. Okay.
I don't think the number is astronomical.
It is.
Government tells me I have to have my license, and I don't even do that. So what do you think I'm gonna do that for an HOA?
So the meeting, what, we have a meeting Friday, you have a meeting tomorrow, or you were gonna,
I'm gonna
Jose's
call
gonna
Scott
follow
tomorrow.
up, Jose's gonna follow up with Scott and get a schedule. We need a schedule.
I'll get this.
Okay.
Which I guess along those lines, Jose, can you get kind of scheduling for any item that's on the agenda of where it's at during the timeline? I think that'd be appropriate just for
Yeah.
ongoing conversation of as you go from month to month, did we move forward or not? Did things get done? Did it get pushed back? All that to have more accountability on performance there.
Step one, get a schedule. Okay, we're kind of at time. I don't know if we want to, how critical from a time perspective is the security company camera discussion?
It could be discussed in the next meeting, but I mean, it's quick. I don't know if it's.
I don't know that it's. I think it's-
Well, then again, that's right. I was looking at Bill when I said that. and he just-
I think
All
you
right,
think
so-
it's
so-
quick.
I thought you were looking at me.
Let me bring it up.
Committee, like where are we at for time, because we are at an hour.
Just highlight
So,
So we have a new security company.
wait, before we start, do we want to continue knowing that this may be an in-depth conversation? I'm good for another half hour. If we're good.
Thumbs up.
All right. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. So, okay, go ahead. Let's do it.
They hired a new security company called Mayberry. Part of their contract includes them allowing them to put cameras in public spaces where they deem it, where whoever in CROA decides where it should be placed, they'll place it and they'll monitor with their systems. They also offer the option to integrate it into our current system so that we can have visibility to their cameras and they can have visibility into ours. I guess the question becomes, is that something you guys would want? It comes at no cost to us because it's part of the contract. So we can have 20 additional cameras. We're not paying for it. It's part of the service. So the question is, if you want that, you don't want that.
And they would own the cameras. They would not be CROA owned.
It will not be CROA owned.
Can
And
you
the security
just give us
company.
a tiny bit of background, what you guys are talking about?
These are surveillance cameras that can be placed in public spaces. So for example.
And are we working with CCDD on it?
No.
No,
No, this is just, and who are we working with on it?
that's Mayberry. That's a security.
This is the
Okay.
replacement for Apex.
Right.
Okay.
For Apex, because Apex wasn't the greatest performance.
Okay,
And Mayberry was pretty much cheaper than.
and that
trying to do a
change
better
happened
job.
like what?
We got Barney
Month
Fife
ago?
now.
Month ago?
Yeah.
We got what?
About a month ago.
Okay, yeah. All right, so that's why this is now a topic of conversation, because it
Right.
came in, we have a new vendor. They go, here's this new feature we can add for you. It will help us to do our job better. And we can share with you. Oh, that's cool.
So it's two steps. They can add cameras where it's recommended.
Right.
Second step is integration with our existing camera system.
If
Yes.
you want,
If you want to, so there's two parts.
at no charge.
No additional.
Exactly.
Either way, they have access to our feeds for our current cameras.
No. That's if we allow.
Are we gonna plan to do that for the security feeds?
That's a discussion to be had here and,
So if we're gonna allow them to have feeds to security, adding new cameras is not gonna change anything. If we're not gonna let them have any access to any feeds, then it's a bigger decision because now you're gonna open that up.
Well, the other question is, if they own the cameras and we remove Mayberry 2 years from now, you know, does it make sense for the community to own the cameras and they just monitor?
What happens when, if we change vendors, what happens?
Right.
But on the flip side, though, you're not paying for it to be installed. It's free. So, I mean,
They're bringing their own generators.
There's
their
no
own
such
solar
thing
power
as free.
panels.
yeah.
Yeah, just to be
Ours,
cynical,
and then if they do remove them, what's
Just-
damage to our amenities that
Yeah.
they're mounted to.
just to be cynical, the car chargers were free too. Anyway, don't anyone comment
I
on
guess
that.
what's
It's
what's
a
the quality
quick
of
little
their
jab.
cameras versus what we would install ourselves?
Yes, for all those reasons, if we were to vote, I would be opposed. Any place that we need security cameras, we should have them.
Yeah.
And we should have complete and 100% control over those cameras. If we want to allow access to selected cameras to a vendor, then we can enable that. We also have the capability of removing that access. I don't like the idea of a third party coming in and drilling a hole in the wall. There'll be a couple holes in the wall to mount the cameras, right? They're gonna have to mount them.
No, they're coming with, and you've seen this in some malls where they come in with, it almost looks like a trailer and it's with a pole and the camera and they just place them.
Oh, the neighbors will love that.
That's, I feel like
Is anyone
celebration
from
is a
ARC
little.
listening? Paul,
I mean, technically, it's not installed, so it's not art.
Just completing my thought, if it involved putting them on our phones and putting a hole or any, connecting to our network, I would vote no. If we need security and we don't have it, we should get it. Right? We have over 100 cameras already. We have 27 just in Artisan Park, not including that 100. Okay. Any place we need security, we should have it. It should be 100% under our control and under our security umbrella. We have very, very tight security on our camera systems. Nobody can access our cameras without authorization. Secure links, everything. It's very tight. So I would be opposed to have anyone, even if they gave them to us.
So Jose, I would say I wouldn't vote until I had more information. I'm making any assumptions on stuff. And the way Gallagher came in and presented everything to us, they let us ask any question we wanted. They had great answers for it. I would ask for that. I'm not making any assumptions about stuff, just voting on an
So
assumption.
You guys want to schedule a meeting with Mayberry and then you can get more details from them? I mean, I'm thinking about this, but I'm thinking about it in tandem with what me and Tom are working on, which is the enclosure system with the Wi-Fi capabilities.
And real quick, just too, as we talk about security, just for folks that are new to, as we get into security discussions, just a reminder that we don't talk about exact locations of cameras in a public meeting. So just FYI, not that anybody would or anything, but just we call that out that we don't, just because of the security concerns.
Which along those lines, I think the first step would be having Mayberry do a review of where they would deem security cameras appropriate and what the camera would look like or install. You know, once you have those two, then I can think, you can start thinking, well, is it something Crowa should front the bill for the actual equipment or not? Or do we even need to put a camera there?
Yeah, it would be interesting where they think cameras should be that there's not.
And is there an option for some of the more mobile ones that, I mean, having a mobile camera in one of those, like ones we see in the parking lot at Home Depot, having that as a permanent fixture in Celebration does not fit the aesthetic.
No,
But I could see where on events, like 4th of July, we've got the big events. Is there an opportunity to bring those things in for those events without having them be permanent fixtures?
I guess the discussion needs to be had with Mayberry.
Yeah.
So what locations would you, if you were to imagine that that you think we don't have coverage now?
I don't know the security system. You guys
Yeah.
know that.
I-
And we
yeah.
shouldn't be talking about we should definitely
Okay.
should be talking
Okay, so
about
we won't-
locations we don't have security in a public forum.
We won't
So-
get into that. But I will say publicly that I can't think of any area that we don't have coverage,
Yeah.
especially where the public is. Of Crow property.
Yeah.
So I don't know where we would put these. I can see the idea of having but it would seem to me it would be redundant given the coverage that we have right now.
Yeah, so then maybe it's a non-starter, that they did the review and realized we already have sufficient coverage on everything, so there's no need to put.
Yeah, my concern is primarily over the access. You know, the holes and all that bother me. You know, I don't like them drilling holes in the stucco and all that, but we could probably fix it. All right, but having not control over the access to us, access to those cameras, and we've had a lot of discussion about whether the police should have access to them.
Mhm.
Specific cameras, you know, we don't. It just makes me nervous.
Do we have, so if we were to set up a meeting with Mayberry to talk about these things, does it need to be a closed, or does it need to be an executive? I know with the
Yeah, I
last
don't know if
security
they can,
meeting,
Yeah, can the tech committee call their own private meeting or does that have to be public? Based on this.
you have to have an executive session like we did when the last
I think
discussion
the
on
board would
security.
have to have an executive session and like.
So Andrew can follow up on that one.
Yeah, I can get the details on that.
Who owns the list of where cameras are that could make that decision based on that? Because when we were having discussions months ago, the amphitheater and other places don't have camera access. So there must be plenty of
That was
places
the
that
original
don't.
intention behind getting the cameras, right? Was to address the issues where there were reports of vandalism and stuff to that effect. I don't know about the amenities per se, because we do have systems in place. I think it was the areas outside of our line of visibility.
Right.
So,
Because I know there's plenty of places with no network connectivity where there's no cameras.
and that's why
We're attempting to solve that problem.
Right.
If we could just get this thing built.
Right.
Um,
And that's what we're
but
working
we've been working on for 4 months.
So CCDD was supposed to put cameras, talking about putting cameras downtown. Is that completely separate from any of this discussion?
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
There's supposed to be a joint meeting or something at some point that was left in Croa's hands after our executive session to figure out how we're gonna work together, because in most cases, places we would want cameras, it would be advantageous for us to use them on CCD things like lampposts, because those have a better vantage point than what we have in our amenities. That was where it was left, was
Okay.
with Croa to figure out where our next step was with CCD.
Is part of the discussion about sharing the payments for the weekend coverage for the security. Had talked about putting additional cameras in.
I think the talk was to take it to CJC because, so CJC plus CCDD, because Kanoa is a major stakeholder in that as well, being the downtown area and
Right.
that being where
Yeah,
things are
right,
happening
okay.
as well.
Good point.
So,
Yeah, which I think there has been communications between Crow and CCD that in the event we did want to put something on their light pole or whatever, they would be open to that discussion and participating in it, but obviously they need to vet it and approve it on their side before we do anything.
And vice
To your point
versa.
Downtown with Kanoa, that's a different entity than Crow to handle the downtown area.
But on the other side of that, this was a mutual benefit because we provided a data backhaul where they don't have it. And that's the part that they were interested in talking and working with us. I'll just remind you that they approached us to do this. We didn't approach them because they wanted to use our facilities for data backhaul. Didn't want to have to duplicate it, put an H frame out there, outdoor enclosures and all that in places that we already have data available. So they came to us. That's how we engaged them to begin with. We gave them a proposal. They looked at it. They said, I just talked to them last week about it. They said they're going out to get quotes and vendors, but they have to put it in the budget for next year. Even though they originally said it was in this year's budget. So I'm not sure exactly where we are, what the holdup is.
and there was a talk with having the sheriff come in and do a walkthrough with CCDD.
And that happened.
It did, okay,
Yeah.
that did happen. Identify the areas
Right.
of
Concerns.
Yeah.
Which we're not gonna mention in a public meeting.
No. Okay. So I guess next step then, set up a meeting with Mayberry, Andrew to follow up. If it needs to be an executive session though.
Let's have Jose reach out to Mayberry and see what their evaluation of the community is. Because they come back saying you have adequate coverage everywhere, then this is a non-discussion.
Right.
So did they not do it?
That was gonna be my next.
No,
question.
the-
Already know where all the cameras are at?
So no, so there were some, they had offered the cameras. Their piece was, well, what's the process? Then we'll do a walkthrough and then we'll provide recommendations. They just want somebody from the tech committee to say yes or no. Let's meet up, let's talk about it, let's review it, and then go from there.
So I thought-
I thought they'd already said like, hey, we don't have enough cameras and we want to put ones in.
Or they were offering to get free ones knowing that they already did
If
that.
needed.
with plenty of
Yeah.
coverage. We'll give you something for free, but you guys are good.
Okay. So then the follow-up is to set up a meeting. The follow-up is for them to provide their assessment. Okay. All right. That was quicker than I thought it would be, at least. It was only 15 minutes. I was expecting a half hour.
No, I said it would be quick, right?
Last thing was meetings. We didn't get to meeting time last time. Does the first Wednesday work at 5:30 for everybody? We didn't. For you two, does that work? Okay. And speaking of the first Wednesday, next month we can't do the first Wednesday because it is July 3rd. I propose we just push back a week if that works for folks. So it'd be July 10th at 5:30.
I won't be here, but that's completely fine.
That'll be
I won't be here either.
the pro workshop,
It'll be a girl workshop.
second Wednesday.
Is there any other days you want to consider? Monday and Tuesday?
Why not do it? July 1st. Or whatever day that falls on.
On Monday.
I could do that. one.
And it might have to be remote anyways, because we.
So
Well, I guess, I was gonna think, maybe we do something at, the office space at Artisan or Heritage Hall. There, is that gonna be,
I have to confirm with Nikki.
so we'll have to see what options are for that.
yeah, the 10th I would be out of town. I could potentially do remote, but I will be gone. The first we could do also. I don't know, but anybody else? The third, I think the third's out. You said that the third was out too, so, right?
Yeah, the third, I mean, I'm available.
Okay,
I'll make myself available if everybody wants to have it on the 3rd at 5:30 remote. They're just gonna be busy because they're doing the setup for the July 4th event,
oh yeah.
but
that's fine. That's fine.
I'll make myself available.
Keep the third, pick a different day, push it back, how far? We can't do the 10th.
Yeah, that week.
Do you want to do it July 2nd or then you do it July 9th, Tuesday or May 11th on Thursday?
Or we push all the way to the 17th,
And in 2 weeks.
what?
And then meet again in 2
And then
weeks.
meet again in 2 weeks.
Or do you do the third and just consider it virtual meeting? Do it that way.
Do that?
Yeah, sure.
All right, we'll keep the third. If that works for you, yeah, virtual,
5:30? No problem.
third virtual, okay.
Because I have something for meeting, for the ways of working together. I was thinking of this before, so before I stepped down of the chair, Tom and I were working on those 3 that are up there. You guys, you and Bill on the website's kind of gone away. The other projects, EVs have gone away. So what's left, kind of Tom owns all 3 on there. So as far as our team and having, separating who owns stuff now, I think we should be thinking about as a team, because everything's left in Tom's plate right now. I know Tom loves everything, but it's just, right, all 3 topics are his and nobody else. And so I think maybe we should start thinking about the projects and as a team owning stuff.
Well, it'd be helpful to have 2 people on each thing, I think. And I feel like Bill is also on the key card stuff, right? No, you weren't doing stuff. You were just helping with the database work.
I never
Oh.
got
We never did that. It was Tom and the.
We were working on all 3 of those, Tom and I were working on together and then, but I was only doing it as a chair, not so.
Big topic next one.
communication committee too, right?
Yeah.
So, and there was a poll that went out for dates for a joint meeting with the communications, with the ONR app, which is the next one. The communications committee is getting a demo of that as well. It'd be great for you guys too, because you haven't seen it either. That ONR app, there will be a lot of there's going to be a lot of collaboration with this committee, Parks and Rec, and Communications. We ultimately own the initiative, but clearly when we start talking about like messages and stuff in there, that's a communication vessel. They need to help set policies and procedures there. Parks and Rec, we're replacing the big thing is the Rec Pro. That contract ends in April of next year. So we need to, at least the Parks and Rec booking part of it needs to be installed and up and running before then. So that'll be the next big one.
Which on that, have you done testing it? Because we saw it on there, so. It should be working, right, for
Which one?
renting stuff out?
And Chris, I think that ties nicely into your vision with the team stuff, because one thing I did a poor job last year on is kind of keeping people in their own lanes, and there's a lot of this. And I think that broke down with the communication. So I think going forward, your idea of doing more in teams, so everybody, like Paul was saying, because even we don't have all information. Somebody goes to a meeting and I did this myself, so it's not shared with the rest of the team until we have the one monthly meeting, right? So I think we need to, as a team, to do a better job at that information. We know where it is. When people do show up at meetings, it is documented, right? So it's all there.
From my standpoint, just so you can be aware, I was told that you were making the ONR presentation to the Communications Committee on June 3rd. So I spent an hour and a half watching their meeting, and Jose was not there. You were not there, and the presentation wasn't made.
I was informed
don't-
of June 3rd
If I could
that
just finish-
Jose was going to do
If I
it.
could just finish. So if you really want homeowners to care and show up, there has to be a forum in which you might say, we canceled that. And I would know about it. It wouldn't be stuck in Teams. So you all know about it. I don't. Because I just watched a meeting I had no interest in to see something I had an interest in that never happened. It's great that you meet together. You're smart people. You care a lot. Homeowners do too. And a lot of the homeowners are smart people too. We just don't care to be on committees. And don't want to have to watch meetings that we didn't really sign up for. So what I'm saying is, it was announced that it was going to be on the 3rd, and I assume that there was a reason it didn't happen, but it didn't happen.
Was it part of their agenda notice? I don't know.
No, it was on an email I saw.
It was on an email that is posted.
From you, actually, it was from you. You said you had met with Jose and following things, and one of the things was, we're not going to have ONR on this agenda because we're going to do something on the 3rd in front of the Communications Committee. Your email.
Is he
Oh,
on the
no.
committee?
So what happened was that
'Cause I sent it to the
Tom
tech
had
committee.
forwarded him the tech committee invite to join the meeting, and you sent that in the tech committee, he probably got it.
It was underneath it was
Okay.
underneath yours.
Because then I replied to that email later and said that
Yeah,
I just got a word from Liz that that they were canceling
It's
that.
okay that it happened. I'm
So,
just saying,
but it wasn't a noticed thing. So that's where I'm just,
It's not your fault. I apologize to Paul. I didn't realize he was interested in that part.
Tom, this
So
was
I
from
didn't
you.
cancel it.
It was from Jose. And it's okay. It's just, as an interested homeowner, I reach out to people and they are very good about sending it to me. But what I'm saying is, the more you could show online to the rest of us, the more informed we'd be. I would have, waited. I'll wait till whenever that meeting is that you show it.
I would
Wherever
be
you
glad,
show it.
happy to go to. I didn't find out until the same day, like that's the day I found
got
out.
it. I
So,
got it. Okay, so.
so that's being rescheduled. There's a doodle to set up the joint meeting with the communications committee so that we can do the demo of the ONR app. And that'll be a main topic of our conversation next week, because that one is, we need to kind of regroup and take a look at it and see, here are the features. There was some initial tests done last year. There were some requests to be done. Those aren't done. We need to look at it by feature and see like what's our plan and what's our rollout plan, and build that out so that we have, one, we can train residents and communicate that properly. Two, we make sure we have the features in there and we have policies. Specifically, like the one that concerns me the most, and John knows this, is the messaging capability. And the last thing we need is another back porch or another front or whatever porch in an app that then we have people either trying to moderate or not moderate and something bad getting put on there, and then that's our system. So we need to make sure that there's some policies and situations in there and understand what features. And then also the Parks and Rec stuff, which does have a hard timeline that we need to go in. So that'll be the next month is figuring out let's make a plan.
Yeah.
Let's make a plan to get this done.
So following up on John's suggestion, I request a partner for the GoGov meetings. The more voices in the room, the better from our side.
You remind us
Could
what
do that,
time?
that would-
It's,
Yeah.
it's 3 o'clock on Fridays,
10 o'clock on Friday.
three,
Every other
every other
Friday.
Friday, every other Friday.
Yeah, every other Friday.
So anyone,
And you can attend
So,
virtually too.
so
There's,
Tom, is it okay to just invite the whole committee and then whoever can join
Oh,
joins?
I guess my preference is I don't think we should do the whole committee. I think it should be two max.
I'm happy to continue with it. Because I forwarded you the emails when you got chair, and then I know Tom was working on it, so I don't want to step on toes, but if you want a second person, I'm more than happy to do it, but maybe Steve or Molly, you want to do it? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, just, I don't have a problem doing it. I always like being a squeaky wheel, so.
I'm allowed. I'm a shouting wheel, but yeah, that'd be good.
So between that, we've got that one. Off the agenda again. Scroll up again. I lost my tab. that
I'll
had-
just forward you the.
Jose, can you scroll
I'll forward you
that
the
one?
invite.
I'll keep going.
From Angel.
Okay, so Tom and Steve will take the Maya Celebration FL. Sorry, I didn't mean, did you want in on that too, or no? Is it-
No.
Okay.
They can't handle it. I'd be interested in security or the O and R app.
Okay. Who wants to help Tom?
No one
with
wants to
the
touch
key
on this.
cards?
I'm happy to take anything, so I just meant,
You were already working on that one too.
I was working on
Do you
it.
guys want to keep that partnership going?
Sure.
And Tom, I feel you're, do you need to own the security part? Or do you want to just be oh no, because you've got the build going on too, so yeah, you do, you do. Yeah,
That project should be. Right now. It really should. I mean, you're right. It's really been literally 4 months. Right? So it's been 2 months since the last bill of material revision. Now Jose was out and sick. I understand, but it's representing a choke point. Jose leaves, we stop, everything stops. That, to me, that's a problem in itself that we should address, how we resolve stuff like that. I will tell you, I promise I would have had it built and it'd be functional by now.
Mhm.
If I had material. I don't even know where the material is, so. I just want to close that topic out and get out of it. So, yeah, somewhat urgently, so
so once that part's done,
I got the materials.
Yeah.
It's just arrived today.
once that part's done, does the stuff with Mayberry, maybe there's just so little left on this one, hopefully, that you want to just close this one out? And then, or do you want somebody to help on this?
Mayberry might explode it.
We can reevaluate at
Well,
that point.
as far as the rest of the security system, other than Jose, I would say I probably know the security system better than anyone in this room. And I think Jose would agree with that because they followed much of what we did at Artisan Park with the milestone system out there. Okay, so I think I understand what's going on here. I don't have access to it and I don't want access to it. I don't need those kind of details, but I'd be more than willing to, if you want to say, give advice or participate in a meeting with Mayberry to see what it is that they're offering and what kind of cameras are they using? Do they meet the government requirements for cameras? I mean, there are regulations here that we have to follow. I'd be willing to participate at that level, but I'm not really interested in the CROA security camera network.
That's fair. So we'll call this project specifically will be the mobile
Yeah.
thing. And
Yeah.
then figuring out I think. Yeah, the mobile thing, and then we'll decide what the next action steps are after Mayberry and basically start that as a new project and call the mobile part, that project's done, complete. So Tom will own that after we get additional work with Mayberry. And what we want to, if there's more work there, then we can align for that project. And then next month we'll talk about ONR. So we're at time. Action items I have. So Andrew's going to follow up with the CCDD on the Monday report that we were supposed to get that we did not. There's going to be every other week GoGov meetings with CCDD, and every month, once a month with GoGov, where we'll provide an update on the action items that we've identified. And make sure we're getting updates on those so we can get those things off the list.
Yeah.
Jose is gonna follow up with Scott on a schedule for the artisan install. And then also work with Mayberry to have, they can provide an assessment. And then after that assessment is complete, we'll discuss having a meeting with the technology committee. Andrew will follow up on whether it needs to be an executive session.
So Jose, add me back to the, I think I've gotten the Scott email.
No, just don't get some.
Nobody,
No, that's what.
Okay.
Okay.
He's right on. There is no project.
it used to be, okay, well.
You're right, absolutely. There's no project.
Okay, we used to get them pretty
No idea
regularly.
what the plan is. Okay.
And those items, Jose, for when you're doing the minutes, they're in the OneNote.
Yep.
They're right there for everybody to see on the committee. So when you publish those minutes, you'll be there. And then I'll add the what was talked about with my celebration FL is going to be Tom, Steve. And then the key cards will be Tom and John. And then I'll make the note on the, okay.
So the only thing I did, like, are we saying that it's not not necessarily looking at station? I do think that Paul's feedback about the stuff is worth looking into. As
Yeah.
far as see the opportunities for consolidation to simplify the list.
And add more to that.
Okay.
As long as we can add more to the list, but let's.
Well, I
just
don't want
keep
to
hitting
add
the
more. I
list.
think I want to
Yeah.
simplify it.
No, add more to the list of things
Oh,
for them to do.
okay, yeah.
Not more
Yeah.
things to the
I'll
list
reach
of.
out, I'll reach out to Lauren and try to get March, April, and May's data. And then we can start looking at where are people actually putting stuff in to see, are we getting zero
Well-
for one type? Then let's just get rid of it.
So, yeah, I mean, but again, like going back to even touching on the badges, the data is only as good as the information that's being put into it. So, I mean, if you've got a resident coming back and then not, I know there was some exchanges going back where it's like, no, that's not true. It's like, it's simple, it's not there, et cetera. But, if it's, we don't know what we're missing if we don't know if the workflows are, complete and whole. Right. So you could have how many users, we don't know how many users are like, I can't find the list and they screw it and just like, I'm move on to something else. You don't know. So, I mean, you need to know if the workflows are complete.
It would be interesting to know the data if people open the app, like scroll, and then don't log a ticket to that point.
Yeah.
How many people try?
Yeah,
and then
how many times have people,
Different.
started and didn't complete? What's your turnover?
Yeah.
And maybe for those things, we start a separate list for ourselves, just so that we get because
Yeah.
we need to prioritize. I'm afraid we send them 50 things.
Yeah,
And
no,
they're
I'm-
not gonna get the things
No,
that we
but what-
need done. So
what I-
I just
what I
want to
don't-
make sure we're
What
getting there.
what
Yeah.
I'm trying to get to is that, like, I think that we can look at coming up with, not just saying like, hey, we've got a problem, but saying like, hey, we identified this as an issue. Here's our recommendation on like what you can do to fix it, so that our residents are able to more easily use it and understand what they're being asked to input into the application. It's like never. I live by the words of never. Always come with a solution if you're coming with a problem. So,
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move.
second.
All in favor?
I
Out.
And see.